All right, we will call this meeting of the Water and Sewer Authority of Cabarrus County to order. Looks like we have a quorum. Randy's not going to be with us unless he shows up remote, which I don't think he is now. I've heard from Rob, but we'll get started. First item on the agenda is adoption of the agenda. Do I hear a motion to do so?
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we have an agenda. Unfinished business are the approval of the minutes that you have in your packets from September 17th meeting. Do I hear a motion
To approve. Second.
Got a motion, a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Okay, we'll move into our new business. Wendy, you've got capital project ordinance for the treatment plant.
So this budget amendment increases the grant funds where I haven't budgeted the grant funds that we had allocated for this project yet. So it budgets those, decreases the Charlotte water contribution, and then increases capital outlay. And this is basically just phase 3 coming over to phase 4.
To largely clean up just the.
Yes, for that over.
Any questions for Wendy about this budget ordinance?
And it also squares up the fact that Charlotte Water is only contributing for 0.6 instead of
Right.
1.6.
Party of the, that we're accounting for.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve the capital project ordinance for the treatment plant expansion, design and construction?
So moved.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that motion carries. Okay, Chad, you're gonna walk us through remote participation policy.
Yes, I will, and I have William here as well that want to answer any questions. This has been something if we date back to COVID, that really kind of came to light during all the times of the shutdowns and everything, and board participation remotely and everything. And we've kind of settled in on welcome to participate remotely, but you can't vote remotely. This basically takes exactly what we've been doing and just creates it into a policy that's official. We did put a caveat in there that if we have a declared state of emergency, state or federal, and there's a need for us to have votes remotely during that time period, that gives us a little leeway there if we need to during a declared state of emergency. We just felt like we've been through that once. Maybe chances are we might see that again. And it may even be from like a natural disaster standpoint or something like that, besides a health related. So any questions you've got with it, William's here. He's probably the better one to ask questions, but it's really just to codify what we've been doing.
I move we approve the policy as written, Mr. Chairman.
I have a comment. I don't have a question. No. So you want to get a motion?
Yeah, we get a second. Maybe.
I'll second it.
I got a motion, a second.
Discussion.
All
I know that we had, and it's related to this at not, but I know we had talked about an attendance policy at length at some point. And I just felt like when I was reading through this packet, this might be a good time to maybe, I don't know, revisit that to see how the board, I know we don't have any issues with that, but we certainly wouldn't ever want to have an issue with it. And I know a lot of the other boards that I sit on does have, they do have some language around attendance. So just kind of wanted to throw that out for maybe discussion. Because I think we're really moving into a season of some heavy discussions, but also when I think about the representation on the board, a lot of us are representations of another board, right? And so I think, if Jeff wasn't showing up to meetings, it would be on the council should know that. Does that make sense from a jurisdiction perspective? And so maybe there's language in there around that of just notification of that. And if they're okay with it, that's fine, right? I just feel like this board has another breathing entity with it since we look at the governing bodies of it as well. Just kind of wanted to bring that up for discussion.
Jen, I agree with you, everything you said. I think the problem is enforcement, because we are all appointed by a different board to sit on this board. So if I never showed up again, how could you change the fact that my board appointed me to be here? And so how could you enforce it? We can make a lot of racket about it.
Right. And maybe it's not an enforcement as much as there's if you're out, whatever that number is, then the executive director notifies the governing body.
Yeah, I
Does that
mean,
make sense? And
yeah,
if
and
they're
I
okay
think-
with it, then
and
you're
I can
absolutely
give
right.
staff the cover of just doing what the policy says rather than, I'm
Right.
gonna try to get this gal for this
Right,
woman
right,
off the
right.
board because I don't, that kind of thing. So I think
Yeah.
it sort of just has a process for notifying, just as a matter of course, if somebody misses 3 straight meetings or something. Possibility.
Well, I mean, if it's the board's desire, William and myself can take a look at maybe what some other boards that you guys represent or own or involved with do. We can bring back a proposal, for that if you would like. So,
And I think to Daryl's point, if you look at similar authorities where you're getting appointed by other boards, and see what their policies are. Yes. Orange maybe is an example of an authority like that, and see if they have a policy.
yeah, we can look Cape Fear. There's different ones we can look at.
But told me, didn't we have a policy where we did notification in the past? Seems like I remember getting an email or copied on an email that went to our board that said the mayor has been here every meeting, or the mayor missed 2 meetings out of 12 or something. Didn't we have a policy like that, or did I just dream that?
I remember what you're talking about, I think, but, I don't know that that was a policy. I think that was.
It stemmed from a question or something. Robin, do you, all that?
Yeah, here's history talking. We did not have a policy. We at one time. You're exactly right. That was something that was done very early when I came, but it was not a written policy. I don't believe. I mean, I can check it to verify that, but I don't think it was a written policy. I think it's just was a courtesy from this board to send it to the clerks to say.
My impression was that it lasted for a couple of years.
It could have, but I'm pretty certain we did do that. But then we went away from it for whatever reason, and I don't remember the reason. That may have been when Coleman came on board, or shortly thereafter. I don't.
Remember
But it's
who was
not written.
responsible, yeah.
Well, does anybody have any objections to Chad and we bring back at least those discussion?
Yeah, we can check to see what other folks have done across the state and have a draft back to you guys to take a look at.
And again, we would shoot for that to be a 2 or 3 page type
Yes.
policy, very, very straightforward policy. One question that comes quickly to mind on that, would we want to state or clearly state in there if the official board member is not able to attend a replacement? I know they couldn't vote, but I would imagine we would want to clarify that in that while we're doing it. Does that make sense?
Sense.
Something about an alternative,
Yeah.
alternate.
They can attend, but they don't.
They're
you're
kind of
not
not
even-
an alt.
Yeah, well, you can attend anytime. you want,
Right.
Right, yeah, that might not be a.
So I don't know.
Vacation.
Hopefully William can make that understand.
Yeah, I think that's right. It's basically giving them what they already have, but we could just expressly say it. Cause right now, if a city Concord person couldn't come, you could have someone sitting here in the audience.
Should we give them a more semi-official seat as an alternate? They can't vote, but they can more actively participate. If the audience, there's this presumption that, well, you really don't speak unless it's speaker, open comment period at the end of the meeting or something.
I mean, I think, could we clarify that they're welcome to sit in the seat of the person, but they would not have voting power? Is that-
Yeah, we
they'd have,
careful that cause we can't have proxies here,
Yes.
for example. So you just wouldn't want to step in and you're not a proxy for them, but yeah, I think we could massage that.
No,
My concern would be who authorizes them to do that.
we don't
Like,
have
do
an.
I get to
alternate.
pick my person to sit here for me, or, you know what I mean? Like,
Any alternate,
Great.
yeah,
that gets a little.
yeah,
I mean, you need the jurisdiction to appoint an alternate.
right.
Yeah, that may be an option.
Then we've
can
got-
work-
If we think that's really important. I don't know that, is that really that important? I don't know.
If it's that important, then we're going back to attendance. Right? I mean, honestly, like.
we don't have to decide this next
That's
month.
not-
So I think let us have the month to look at what some other people do, and we'll come back with some items for discussion.
I wouldn't even worry about putting in a policy form yet. Just get some
Points or something.
points and
Okay.
discussion topics and we'll, take it slowly.
It may be, I think it worked well for Mount Pleasant, where it's just one person, and Aaron sat in for Randy a few months ago.
Yeah.
He knows what's
Yeah.
going on in the town and can represent, and there wouldn't have been anyone else here from Mount Pleasant.
And that's, you may have been sitting in the seat at the table, which is not that big a deal, but it does send a sense that they can have the floor, they can participate, just can't vote versus sitting in the audience and they're kind of just here to listen. So you guys think about that and bring some ideas
Okay.
back.
All right.
Okay.
I
Yes,
appreciate
no, that's, we've been sort of off and on talking about that for a while. All right, back to the motion. We have a motion, a second on the board member remote participation policy. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we'll move into some reports. Wendy, our quarterly financial reports.
Portfolio investments and then where we are for the first quarter of the year. And I'll be happy to answer any questions if you have them.
Anything unusual for us to be aware of?
Not that I'm aware of, along as usual.
Any questions for Wendy about the financials? Okay, thank you, Wendy. All right, Thomas, can you talk about capital improvement plan project list driver?
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, came to you last month with a capital improvement plan for approval, and that was approved at the September board meeting. One thing that we wanted to provide some additional kind of preliminary clarification on were project drivers. We heard some discussion about that and, participated with that. So this is the same capital improvement plan project list. There's just a column in there for driver on that. So before I get to driver specifically, I wanted to back up and talk a little bit about the process for each project. Some of these projects are already in progress and they are just continuing to move along. For projects that are not yet in progress, we would go out with a request for qualifications, either for engineering services or for a design build contractor, depending on the project. And we would bring that to you for your consideration. And so the engineering services recommendation or the design builder recommendation, as the case may be, for your consideration. And certainly be available for any questions and with additional information on each project from there. This list is intended to kind of drive that RFQ process. So the timing that we as staff put out those requests for qualification and kind of pursue that in order to bring that to you. From there, once we're into design services for a particular project, once the WSACC board has approved and we're into design services or pre-construction services for design build, the idea there is that we're gaining more information along that way as we go. And so for a collection system project, we might have a project preliminary sized as a 24-inch sewer, and it turns out we need an 18 or something like that. May turn out we need a 30-inch, but kind of further refining the information here as we go. And then as we proceed towards construction, that project would come before you again, either as a traditional design bid build project with bids for your consideration, or with a design build project with a GMP, to actually start into the construction side of things. So just kind of a general idea for the intended process overall. However, at this point, we wanted to go ahead and add these drivers to this list just for any discussion, hopefully for some clarification as well. And we've got three basic drivers on this list. Capacity is a driver. That could be either increased wastewater treatment or wastewater conveyance capacity. So bigger pipes for more wastewater or improvements at one of the plants for more treatment at one of those plants. Maintaining existing infrastructure, would be a condition sort of thing. So you see some of the sewer rehab projects and pump station rehab being condition driven in this list. And finally, a driver for future regulatory compliance or a regulatory driver. So to meet current or future rules, we need to do something for a particular project. So it's listed with a regulatory driver. We've listed a couple drivers, 2 drivers for 3 of these projects. With those, the one listed first is intended to be listed as the primary driver, and then to go from there, with the secondary driver listed following. So I'm happy to take any questions you might have on this.
And a little background on this. So we are planning, part of the discussion that came out last month, we are planning, after talking with Thomas and with Wendy, of syncing up the CIP with the annual budget process, of getting those back synced together. So what we wanted to do was propose a small change here to this CIP and listen to other things that may be helpful to you guys to prepare for next year's preparation of it while it was still on everybody's memory. I know some discussion was had of, I believe, Mike, you brought up, we'd like to kind of what would happen if we didn't do it? What's the challenge if we didn't do it? And everything. And I don't know that that's an easy thing to quantify on a list because every project's so different. I think the best thing I would point out was the urgency or the need of the project is basically driven from our standpoint of how quickly it happens on here, from how quick it is. But we were hoping if we could explain that, we're doing this because of capacity, we're doing this because of a regulatory driver, we're doing it because of a condition that at least provides a little more information of the primary driver of the project. So.
We will bring more information with design services or whatever the initial step is for each project. We will bring more information to you relevant to that particular project as we go.
And I guess each project budget, if you have multiples like condition and regulatory, that budget's gonna be split up by different costs too. I mean, when you get down to the project level, some of it's about improving the condition, some of it's things we have to do no matter what.
We may, some of those are more nuanced than others.
Yeah.
Some of those are pretty entwined with each other. For example, condition and regulatory. We have a duty to maintain all of our permit limits and all of that. And then to meet potential future permit limits as we undertake improvements. And so those may be more or less difficult to separate. Something like if we're doing a parallel gravity sewer line, and then we've got some rehab in the existing sewer line we're doing also, that's pretty simple to bring that. So it just depends on the project.
Other questions about this additional approach to capital planning?
And I do think you will see, I know one item will be Muddy Creek here in the next month or so, but you will see there's gonna be a stream of several projects that are gonna be coming before the board off of this list over the next couple of months. So we're gonna get pretty active on the project standpoint again, from starting new projects. Just as a heads up.
Any other questions for Thomas or discussion about this item? Okay, thanks, Thomas.
Yes, sir.
All right, we'll go into a work session if we need to have one. Any topics on the treatment plant expansion? Chad, that we,
I haven't heard much over the last month, which it feels like we just had a board meeting last week. So I was kind of surprised when it popped up that we were having another one here. But I would, one thing I would, and I actually had this on my to comment on later, but I will go ahead and I've talked to quite a few of the board members about this. But as everybody sees, we've been pretty dry here the last good many months. We started the year off pretty wet, been pretty dry here lately. Right now, we're tracking to be somewhere around 800,000 gallons a day less this year than last year. So that would be a significant amount of flow that would be available as part of the first of the year square up, deal that would also have a chunk of capacity that's been connected on top of that. Obviously, the concern with that comes with what if it turns around and gets wet again next year? That's obviously a challenge, but just we're tracking that very closely. I will continue to keep the board up to date on that, but with all of the capacity decisions, discussions that are taking place, again, I just want to make sure that you all are aware of the most up-to-date data and information that we have. I think I said it last month, but it holds true now. As of right now, our flow is less than it was in 2020. So we've actually, seen our flow moderate back quite a bit. to this little bit more normal to drier pattern that we found ourselves in here this fall. It's not unheard of. We've seen it before where we have, a couple years ago, we were in a similar situation. Then we had a very wet November, December. So, that still could happen. And I don't think any of us wants to go into a drought, but, I do think, it seems like things have normalized a little bit. And we've missed some of these tropical systems that are so impactful to us. But other than that, I really haven't heard anything from the jurisdictions other than that they're continuing to try to process a very difficult decision. And that seems pretty uniform, across the board.
Chad, we talked about, we all get that the big expansion is the complicated answer and everybody's got to struggle with it, but we did talk about a 2 million gallon day sort of upgrade to the plant. Is that something that we should have more specific directed discussion about whether that's something we can all get comfortable at doing in the short term that we all could maybe afford? Or do you feel like that just needs to be wrapped up in the bigger decisions and not even worry about that until we're about the meaty topics?
I think it's definitely safe to say that is a standalone decision. That is not, we can go to 36 without going to 45.
Right.
Okay. There's several things in the air that challenge that right now. One, we have to get closer to the completion of phase 4 before we can start proving out processes to do that re-rating. The other part is the curveball that the state has thrown into us on the nutrient limits. Okay, so when we originally proposed this information and talked through these, that was not an issue back in May when we originally made that. And we were talking about a $40 million 2 MGD upgrade. It appears now that probably is going to involve, if we go to 36 with some nutrient work that's going to have to take place at the plant. That just means that $40 million project is now probably a $75 or $100 million project. It falls into that $50 a gallon probably that we've all talked about. And I may be sending out stronger numbers than I know right now. We haven't really dug into that. But I think that is something over the next 6-8 months that we will need. We get summertime next year, we'll need to start really digging into, but it is not an all or nothing. Going to 36 and not going on to 45 right away is an option. So
Do we lose anything by going to 36 and not wrapping that into you say it's purely a standalone? There's no advantage to waiting and do it as part of the bigger expansion, or I'm probably asking questions you can't answer off on the fly, but
I think they're ones we need to know the answer to.
yeah, they do.
If possible, yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. So Brown and Cobble's working on their conceptual design. They'll have it to us. They're aiming to have it to us in December for all the way to 54, which would include the tiers to 36, 45, and then 54. And so we'll have more clarity on the nutrient piece at that point. From what we understand, the 45 MGD option is largely new basins and new equipment off to the side. The 45 MGD option is. I hope I said that correctly. The 36 MGD option, the nutrient removal pieces will be new to the plant. Those will be additional facilities at the plant. The other work at 36 would be kind of optimizing existing processes at the plant.
Are we, so throwing nutrient limits into this 36 million permit, are we confident that any additional capacity opportunities, greenfield site somewhere else would come with those same nutrient limits? Is that a
Yes.
fair?
Yes, any new dischargers within the Rocky River Basin are going to have nutrient limits. So, and kind of the cleanest way to think about this, the 2 million, getting the 2 million gallons of hydraulic capacity, being able to handle that much flow is proving out processes and doing some small upgrades in it. The nutrients involved adding completely new chemical feed for phosphorus treatment and filters for nitrogen removal. So, and that's not filtration for the 2 MGD, that's filtration for the 36 MGD. What that does is that's costs that before when we were talking would probably have gotten tied more into the 45. So you're just front loading the the 36 MGD with more money because you're taking care of that whole 36. So then it'll make the 45 be a little more streamlined. You won't be wrapping that into the 45.
But it's going to be paid sooner or later.
Correct.
Yeah.
It's at a cost that we're going to incur at some point.
But is it,
Sorry, but with the options we talked about though for expansion, I mean, we're trying to get to that magic Rocky River number, but I mean, making that first decision, we're really making the second one too, right? That next expansion to get the value is at Rocky
We
River.
don't. It's a good point.
Yeah, I mean,
Which is fine,
Yeah.
but essentially that means that next big expansion will be at Rocky River essentially.
We're already making that decision, just delaying the actual commitment for.
and I do want to make a point to the board that it does make everything being the same size and everything being able to cut something off and to turn something off, that is ideal. That is the great way and that would be the way we would want to do that. But if it proves out that just going 6 MGD more and we have to do something a little bit more creative on that side, it's not that we can't do it. It's not ideal. So there's other ways to look at it to see, can we do, right now our trains are split, in thirds. So you've got basically 3 MGD trains, kind of the aeration, but I mean, the secondaries and primaries make it a little different. You would lose some efficiencies potentially, but there's options that we can do. The 9 is probably going to be the best bang for your buck. It's going to be the best operational. It's going to be the best engineering wise, but I don't want you to think that is the only options that we have. There are other options that are just not as ideal, but if they make financial sense for our community, then we have to consider them, or we're just not being responsible. Is that safe to say, Thomas?
I think so, and the options that Brown and Caldwell is working on right now will kind of bracket that.
Yeah.
So they would prefer, and operationally, it is simpler and more robust to have kind of an even split among things. And then more cost efficient, kind of in dollars per gallon sense as well. But there are opportunities to do something kind of between those tiers. But we'll have those tiers basically bracketed by the cost at 36 and the cost estimate at 45.
Jennifer, do you have something else? Did I get?
I think that got it, but I think I have a. So Caldwell also looking at Greenfield. We didn't go that far, right? We just said, so I'm gonna piggyback on your question.
They did, but we've stopped. We
Right, we
made the
kind of
decision.
made the decision to go in that direction or to focus on that for at this point in time. So let's say I'm gonna use your example of the 6. Do we get to the point then of like, does it make the 6 at Rocky River, or does it make sense at a Greenfield site? Does that make sense? Like, so would that be the next step beyond that if we felt like we weren't hitting that 9?
It would be worth that would be we step back and
And say, what other options do we need to
Correct.
consider? Okay.
correct. If we said, really 5's all we need or 6 is all we need, then we step back. The challenge is going to be from a greenfield standpoint is the time, the schedule will be the challenge there. Now, from an engineering standpoint, that's much simpler for them because they got a clean slate to work. There's a lot less from a design standpoint, unknowns from a design standpoint when it comes to that. So I feel good with how we're progressing and where we're at, but I don't want the board to feel like that these are our 3 options and that's it. That's not true. We have essentially unlimited options. There's just positives and negatives to all of them that we have to consider. So I just wanted y'all to make sure that you're aware those are options.
Let me follow Jen's question a little bit too. If we went to a greenfield location and we built 5 or 7 or whatever the number is at the greenfield location, you're saying that project for sure would have to have nutrient control.
Yes.
Okay. Does that then dictate that we then have to go back to the 34 that we're already treating at our existing plant and have to then add nutrient control at that level? Or is it just the increase that we're paying for adding nutrient control? If that's the case, then Greenfield might be a whole lot less expensive to do that. If you're only having to add it for that and 34 stays good all the time, then it could be a lot less expensive for the nutrient control to do nutrient control for 6 or 9 or whatever that number happens to be, or 20.
Well, and Thomas, please jump in if I state this wrong. The way that I feel that the state and the way they've stated they want to handle this is they've looked at our last 5 years, correct, of actual nitrogen and phosphorus discharges to the river in poundage and total amount discharged over the course of a year and averaged that, correct?
Well, it's a total number of pounds for each year.
But they averaged the years, the 5 years.
Yes, is that right, Chris?
I think
Okay.
they averaged the 5 years and they looked and they said, all right, and I'm just making up numbers. You discharge 20 pounds of nitrogen and 5 pounds of phosphorus. As you expand, you can't go bigger than that. So the bigger you get, the smaller your concentration needs to be. Okay, so what we would have a case there is if we went greenfield, we're not going to get a greenfield plant to 0 discharge on those. So though I would imagine they would probably kind of give us like a total poundage among plants if they did that. That's the way they handle Charlotte Water and a lot of other areas. So we would potentially still have it at some point at Rocky River have to meet as total flows increase throughout the system. But we would not have to do anything right away.
It would really be nice to get a clarification of that issue, because while I'm not saying you're wrong, I'm
Right.
just saying we'd love to know that, hey, you have to go back and if you add greenfield site, you have to go back and every time you add greenfield, if you get 1 smidge of extra phosphorus and 1 smidge of extra nitrogen at the new location, then that kicks you into this. Okay, well, as long as we know that, then doing it at the Rocky River place or location is the okay way to do it. But if it doesn't mean that, my goodness, this is a big deal in terms of savings for our community to specifically do a greenfield site.
Right.
If all we have to do is control that at the new greenfield site.
Yeah, well, I feel confident we will be held to a total loading on the river as a entity, as WSACC. And so I feel like that would most likely with that, there would be the 3 plants combined in a total loading that we would be held to there. Which would mean we would be fine for a while at Rocky River until flows at Rocky River started getting on up towards, those loadings were all calculated at 21, million gallons a day. As that plant goes higher, you're going to have more challenges to meet that. So I think it's inevitable that we have to add some form of physical chemical removal of nitrogen and phosphorus at Rocky River. You may be able to delay that though.
And I think your logic is probably correct.
Yeah.
And that somewhere down the road, we're going to have to pay for every drop that we're treating. And there's going to have to be some kind of control applied to every drop we're treating. But if that could be offloaded for 10 years or something like that, so we didn't have to pay, that could be substantial.
Yes. No, you're correct.
And potentially avoid some interceptor projects too. If you get that flow out of the system, you may avoid a $10 million project downstream. Flow off of the system.
So I probably missed this in the months I wasn't here, but what happened to the alternatives analysis where we're looking at treatment and reuse in a specific location? Because at some point you're reaching these standards, you're removing so much stuff, you might as well go to reuse.
Correct. And so we looked at a 3 MGD, two, or was it 2 to,
I think 3 was the number they settled on.
but it was around a 3 MGD plant out on where Cottle Creek and Wolf Meadow come together, close to Franklin Park, below that, that would treat, and then send reuse back up towards the industrial sites up there. That was in itself was going to be a $150, $200 million plant in itself. And so, everybody, we kind of settled on that provides other challenges too. The more plants you have, it's nice everything being together. And I think originally the thought was getting to the 9 MGD was going to be pretty easy. And now I think when we're seeing some of the costs and impacts it has on it, you start looking at, maybe we don't need it. I don't know. And so it's still an option. It's not been ruled out as an option, but the timing would be the challenge.
And I get the efficiency of going to the 9,
Mhm,
doing the
yep.
big one. If you go greenfield, we're sort of starting fresh. Can that be phased in a completely different way?
It could,
Is
yes.
that a really
Yes,
small
definitely.
million, 2 million, and then a
Definitely.
4 and a 6 and whatever? I
Definitely.
mean, that's easier to do.
And the
than
advantage
that
is
Greenfield site.
with something like that is you can base load it from, if you put it on an interceptor, you can base load it from day one. And you build a 2 MGD plant, you're treating 2 MGD or close to that day one. So you're utilizing that new investment.
I mean, that is the interesting dynamic, right? Building a whole nother train that potentially might not even really statistically be needed for another 20 years.
Yep.
It's crazy.
It's tough.
Yep.
That is,
Does the,
I'll make everybody pay for it now.
little side rail, I know that Muddy Creek has the 1 MGD permit.
Yeah.
And that we're coming up to the 0.66, using the understanding that all new flow will have to have the nutrient limits. Is it a safe assumption that we're gonna either bypass that for the Muddy Creek expansion, since that's sort of in the works, or will that
We
still?
have the 1 MGD permit.
Right.
So we're safe to 1 MGD. We go above 1 MGD at Muddy Creek.
Okay, so it's
And we-
limited flow,
Yes,
actuals.
yes. Yeah. Correct. Yeah, we have confirmed that with them. So.
Brown Caldwell, refresh our memories. They are looking at it a greenfield option. Or
So not
all,
Not currently, they haven't currently looked at it past the alternatives analysis phase, which is what George presented on a few months back. But that option is still there and available for further development. Right now, they're pursuing the 36, 45, and 54 at Rocky River. Again, that would kind of bracket any option in the middle at Rocky River. And if the board decides that we'd like to go back to that greenfield option, we can certainly go back and look at that further.
well, I think it's smart to let them finish their work and see what all this looks like, and then that may be something we have to regroup on.
I think it's safe to say though, if we went back to Braun and Caldwell and so we would like more like a conceptual design on a plant, greenfield plant that could be built immediately or again at 2 million, expandable to 4 and then to 6, or that's something they could turn around back to us pretty quick. That's probably a 6-month lift or something for them to.
It's kind of an off the shelf kind of almost.
Sure, on the concept level and for magnitude cost, and that's what.
Yes. So that's something that we could pull together. And then we would probably internally start looking pretty hard at like some site options, because I think that may be a challenge too.
What does the regulatory process look like for a greenfield?
How
Well,
much different is it from what we're gonna expand at Rocky River?
I think
Time wise, like what do we?
it's probably longer, I would say, but I do think it's probably the fact that we're already in discussions with them on so much of this. We've modeled the river, we've modeled up Cottle Creek, part of that, has been looked at. We're a number of steps down the road on something like that. So I don't know that it would be a several year lift to get that permit in hand. I would think would be safe to say. But we would also be looking at building a type of a plant that would construct pretty quickly as well. So, but I still think you're probably looking at a 5-year type of a process at least, I would say.
I think you're also bringing in some issues, Rocky River, unless you live on Mexico Road, Rocky River is kind of out of sight, out of mind, or simplicity.
Yep.
What you're talking about doing with the greenfield here, is not gonna be out of sight and out of mind, I don't think. I don't think where you're gonna divide out that flow and where it's gonna be located, but you're gonna have some challenges with surrounding uses.
We would just have to look at that. I mean, I've looked, there's a nice area that, off Rocky River back behind the landfill there in Harrisburg that would be a nice spot. It's back in there behind that industrial park, behind the landfill that would be, you know what I mean? That
There's a very vocal group of.
there is, but you know, there's some areas around out there that you could look
They're
at.
everywhere, not a fit. What are you
They're
talking?
everywhere, but I'll tell you.
Nobody's gonna live there.
I can refer you to some
They're
people.
more, what's the word? They come in with their shirts that are the same color, like formed,
They might be more connected to.
connected and organized.
But that's the challenge when we go to do anything like that. You're gonna be in the zoning, in the property acquisition of everything that's along with that.
I think, I mean, just to be honest with you, with where we're at, we had a second work session. We kind of updated our numbers, got a little bit of feedback from council. And it is, I think the challenge that we're seeing is the money. I mean, just specifically what you said. And so then it's like, we've run it through the rate model of like, so how do you pay for this? And it's like, guess who's paying for it? Jonathan's paying for it, right? Like, I mean, the individuals, and so there's, I mean,
Way around it.
there's no impact fees, right? So let's just throw it on the table. We understand that people don't love them, but we also understand there's reasons for those, right? And that's where we're finding, I won't say a stumbling block, but that's where a lot of our discussion is surrounded right now from a council perspective, is the financial piece. Is that a fair? I mean, and it's also figuring out the growth rate, but I mean, at a very, what I would consider moderate, solid growth rate, the numbers are staggering.
Have we ever looked at taking some piece of the flow off of Rocky River and sending it to Albemarle, where Albemarle is discharging into the main river, the Yadkin PD, not into the sub-basin that is the Rocky River? I mean,
Or Salisbury.
yeah,
Now, I personally have not been involved with looking at that.
but I'm just thinking to myself, how much does it cost to get it over the ridge to where Locust is now got piping that takes it down to and back into Albemarle and because they had a lot of textile mills, they don't have textile mills anymore. They have some capacity there that they could treat. I'm just wondering if we're talking about just saving 5 years or saving 3 years or 7 years, whatever it happens to be. Is it possible that we could take part of that flow and redirect it, pump it over the ridge line and let it flow through that system? I don't know that we've ever talked about that before.
Well, I know Locust goes to Oakboro. They don't go to Albemarle, and they're expanding there. They just expanded and are looking at expanding again in Oakboro. So I know that's a pretty small system there, that's limited. So it would have to be a look at Albemarle proper as a whole. And I know that plant has had some major issues.
And Mayor, I will add though, so, you know, right now, we're taking 5 million potable through the IBT. If you send 3 million back, you've only taken 2.
Right.
So there is a double whammy, especially on the financial side of, if you're taking 10 one day and you're sending 5 back, you've still got access to 5 more you can bring in, because it's a net. So you talk about bang for the buck.
Yep.
And is it possible that we could go to Mount Pleasant and send it from Mount Pleasant versus trying to get it into Oakboro or I'm just looking for every way possible to save money.
Or the
And to
Salisbury
redirect
option of
Or the Salisbury office.
sending the northern part of the county that way. And, you know, that's.
Yep. No, it's.
I think we're at the point where every crazy idea is on the table.
$500 million.
Not crazy at all. When I look at 600 plus million.
Yep.
Keeping things on the table.
Yeah.
All right, good discussion. You guys sort of hear
Yes.
the discussion. We'll just kind of keep rolling until Brown and Caldwell's completed with the next phase, and then we'll group after we hear from them. Does that sound? Hey, okay, we will move on. If there's no other discussion on the topic, you got any updates for us?
I do have a few. We did have our family fun day back, what, 2 weeks ago now, week and a half ago. Had right around 120 employees and families show up. That's good when you have 60 employees. That's good when you get 120 to show up. Again, a lot of kids running around. So that was nice and that was fun to see. I will have Robin talk a little bit. We did a project over the last 2 Fridays with We Build here in Concord, and I'm gonna have her talk just a minute about that.
We joined with Brown and Caldwell and Crowder, and I don't know if you're familiar with We Build Concord. It is an entity that helps working home buyers get into their home. And there's some nuances to it, to how they get into their home. And so we actually partnered with, like I said, Brown and Caldwell and Crowder. And we did 2 outdoor storage buildings for them, painted those buildings. They were donated, the buildings were donated, the storage buildings were donated. We did some yard restoration on both the houses, and these houses were right off of Cabarrus Avenue. If you've been out that way, Chad, what was the name of the street? Powder. Nice homes. Not that, they're new homes, nice new homes. We got lawnmowers donated, gardening equipment donated, weed eaters donated so they can be productive and take care of their yards and maintain that. And it was a great project. We had volunteers to go out and we stained decks, we painted buildings, we set up the buildings were brought in and set up. And we did some yard restoration for them because the homes are new. And so one of the homes, the yard looked pretty rough, like construction folks had just moved out. So that one had a lot more work in the yard to do, but it was a great project. We had great success.
Right.
Thank you, Robin. Muddy Creek, like I said, we will be coming next month with a little bit more information on Muddy Creek. This won't be to a point of ready to award a pre-construction amount or anything on the project. But it will be the conceptual design that we got back from Brown and Caldwell, an updated cost estimate there and kind of where we're at in the RFQ process and kind of a schedule of moving forward. So that's going to start that ball really rolling there for us with probably the goal of getting a team selected and on board and working first of the year to really get moving down there. So I just wanted to give you that little bit of an update. Last month I talked a little bit. We had just found at Aeration Basin 5 some concrete issues we had found in that basin. Still don't have final kind of cost of what that's going to impact us. But I did want to let they know that they've continued to work. We don't see a significant impact to schedule yet. And we think it's going to be some money, but we've got contingency money for that. So it may have a week or 2 or something impact on schedule, but nothing dramatic that's going to be really impactful. So that's continuing. All parties are working really well together on that. So anything to add to that, Sir Chris?
Number 4.
4, excuse me.
And we'll be looking at 3 as we cross over into that one as well.
We've already done 5. So yeah, 4. All right. Yep, that's all I have.
Muddy Creek Design Build, that's the land.
That's what we're going to recommend. Yeah, that's going to be our recommendation with as well. It will be a different team than Crowder. So we're going to keep them focused on Rocky River, getting that project done. We know of a couple teams, pretty strong teams that we think are going to propose on this project. So I think we will end up with another good team, but it's a really good project for somebody else to be able to come in and prove their ability.
What's the ultimate timeframe?
Is it 2 years?
2 years.
It was 2 or 2.5 years, and that would be past, we'd have to get through the pre-construction services, kind of the preliminary design up to 60%. And so the idea is breaking ground, hopefully sometime late next year. And then, 2.5 years, I think, past that.
So I think it's like a 3-year total project window.
I know they're not far apart, but do you foresee any staff issues in terms of, you don't have the same kind of number of staff, and probably the staff will be working with the team on site at Muddy Creek?
And you're talking about internal
Yes.
staff. We do have an additional engineering position as a utility system engineer position that's budgeted that we have not yet filled. That's something we'll probably be looking to fill first of the year. So that is a position we will be looking to fill and add. So yes, with as much work as we've got coming out, the plant is kind of Rocky River. It's pretty efficient to kind of stay involved with because you're right. Most everybody's right there. When you get on all these linear projects and pump station projects and at Muddy Creek, you're right. It stretches people out quite a bit. So.
Other questions for Chad? Okay, thank you, Chad. We'll open up the meeting to any public comments. Anybody want to address the board on any issue? Free to do so.
Can I share something?
Sure.
If nobody else?
Yeah, I don't see anybody come to the podium, so floor is yours, Josh.
Right. Now, I wanted to share real quick, last Wednesday on the 8th, Chad and Thomas and Chris were willing to take time out of their day to basically let me have a field trip with them. I met with all three of them at the Rocky River plant first thing in the morning. We chatted a little bit about the history of WSACC and then we peeled out, Thomas and Chris and I, and they took me from headworks at where everything comes in at the top of the map on that wall, all the way down to the bottom where it discharges out to Rocky River. And they did not leave one question unanswered. I'm a 21 question kind of guy. I've said it a few times, you know, being green or brown, considering the product we're talking about. I went in, you know, not really knowing probably what I thought was 5%. I knew less than that, but we walked through Rocky River. We went to Muddy Creek and they showed me all the processes there. We looked at a couple pump stations and really helped me get the lay of the land and why each project was important and why it's staged or phased the way it was. And so I wanted to highlight them and I had shared this with you, Chad, but the professionalism that they had, the knowledge that they have, the staff. I didn't meet anyone at any of the plants or areas that didn't seem to know what they were doing. Everybody was on the mission. Everybody was professional. I think that really speaks to the leadership all the way on down. And I wanted to highlight them, and I wanted to thank them all publicly for that opportunity.
Yeah, that's super. That's great to hear.
Yeah, it's a great idea. The new board member would take up that much of their time to
Yeah.
go and listen and learn. And so I congratulate you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I took the smells home for, you know, about the next 36 hours.
Those are free.
There was
Coffee being left unsniffed. No, it was very impactful and even talking tonight and remembering some of the topics that we had talked about walking through Rocky River. Just the educational benefit there alone is unlimited. So.
Great. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah, that's very good. Okay, if there's any other board comments? Okay, if not, we'll have a extraordinarily quick closed session, but we need to go into it. So, do I have a motion to go into closed session under GS 143-318-11A1?
So moved.
Second, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?